The WagerTalk You Pick special is live, giving you the option to pick the league of your choice and get 30 days of picks for only $99. 30 days of the NFL for $99, done. Just want NBA and NHL for the next month? You can do that for only $99 each. That's right, 99 gets you every release from the league of your choice from your favorite handicapper, including 5% best bets for 30 days. No coupon code is required, and 30-day sports passes will go back to regular price Sunday at midnight. So lock in as many sports and handicappers for only $99 before time runs out.
Friday. It is Friday, November the 19th, as we head into the weekend, and this is WagerTalk Today on WagerTalk TV. I'm guest hosting for the Prez. I'm Steve Merrill, joined by Teddy Covers, as always. And Teddy, we've got a great show, as always, on Fridays. We've got a lot of football to talk about this weekend, college and pro football. Also, a little college hoops to squeeze in there because we've got a triple header, 3 guests. Rob Veno is going to look at a couple college football games, North Texas, Florida International, New Mexico State, Kentucky. Then we got the big game breakdown. You're talking a game I think is very interesting, actually, Clemson, Wake Forest. I might weigh in a teeny bit after that, after you give us our big game breakdown on that one. Then we got Adam Trigger from WagerTalk.com. Adam's going to look at some college hoops. Siena, Georgetown. He is a Metro Mac expert. That's where he went to school. Brian Leonard gets mad because he's the Mac expert. And then also Vikings, Packers, another interesting game to look at from Adam Trigger. And then we bring in our other prop master. We had Andy Lang last week. Now we have Matt Joseph, sportsmemo.com, the prop master over at Sports Memo. Matt Joseph has 3 props for us in the colleges, 3 college props for us. So it's a loaded show here. So let's get right to it. Teddy, what did you learn last night in sports?
Well, we got to start with the MAC versus MAC, because the Mid-American Conference you see in football as well as basketball. But the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC, that, of course, is where Siena plays. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We talk about what I learned last night. Look, if it wasn't clear before last night, it should be clear now, all right? Your team's record, especially at the midway point of the season, has nothing to do with how good you are. You see it in the NBA right now, teams that have gotten off to hot starts and slow starts based as much on schedule as any other factor. 2 weeks ago, the Atlanta Falcons were a 500 team. Some people were talking about Atlanta as a potential playoff contender in the NFC. Of course, the 4 wins they had at that time were the Giants by a field goal when the Giants were awful, the Jets by a touchdown in London, Miami by 2 points, and New Orleans by 2 points, maybe the best game of the bunch. Well, then they faced somebody real in Dallas and they got smacked. And we saw again last night when they faced somebody real, they got it was a non-competitive game, So your record does not equal how good you are. Power rating numbers tell you how good you are. The casual guys who do power rankings every week get it wrong every week. They're worried about who has the best record, not about who has the best record. Texas San Antonio is not the second best team in college football, And similarly, in the NFL, Atlanta might have been 500. They're not 500 anymore. What about you, Steve? You learn anything interesting last night?
Yeah, I was going to go the same way you went. I was going to say the Patriots are definitely a Super Bowl contender. I mean, they've actually, it's funny. They were always all offense. The defense was always suspect. They become more defense in recent years. Obviously, without Tom Brady at quarterback, they've struggled offensively. But it looks like they found their quarterback. And I think you could definitely say Mac Jones is about as NFL prepared as any quarterback we'd seen coming into the season in recent years. What was he, maybe 4-1, 6-1 offensive rookie of the year, I think, when the season began. I believe Andy Lang actually mentioned it right here on the show, Wager Talk Today, back in August. Would have to say he's a front runner for that, to say the least. But yeah, they've held their last 3 opponents, Teddy, to 7 or less, last 3. And so they're really getting it done defensively, even though Mac Jones has stepped up. And that was an impressive win last night. Obviously, Atlanta's not as good as New England, but if you look at that scheduling spot, 3 days having to travel on just 3 days rest after the Cleveland home win and with Tennessee and Buffalo on deck to play a non-conference opponent in the middle of the week was not a good scheduling spot, and it wasn't even close, like you said, 25-0. So that was an impressive showing by the Patriots. I have them up there now. And by the way, speaking of power ratings, I, of course, do that for my college football video. It's posted Wager Talk TV every week, my 3 biggest college football games, and I give you my power ratings where the line value is. I totally agree with you. There's a big difference between mathematical power ratings and power rankings, which is kind of what the top 25 poll is. So I combine the both of them, but I tell you what the values with those power ratings.
Yeah, sounds good. Then, so when you talk about this Falcons team as, I don't know, being were they ever any good? I mean, that's really and the Patriots in particular. You know, Mac Jones in the rookie year, certainly a great bet. But New England's won and covered 5 in a row now, right? And the thing that stood out to me that I missed in the handicap last night, that I was disappointed in myself, the rookie head coaches on Thursday night struggle. And Arthur Smith and the Falcons, Belichick versus Smith last night, that was worth a field goal. And ended up being worth probably more than that with New England's dominant victory.
Yeah, Teddy, real quick on that. I think Ralph had the chart a few weeks ago, I think, here on the show. We talk about the Thursday night numbers, and obviously there's been a lot made over recent years now that we have a bigger sample about home teams seem to do better because, they get that extra day of rest at home, not having to travel. But what does even better is, I believe, favorites, both road and home. So basically the better team has an even bigger edge than the home team, and that was kind of across last night. And it's exactly like you said. I've always thought in a short situation, the better team or the better coaching staff has an edge, right? Because there's less game timing planning for the weaker team. And we used to always see that in the Saturday and Sunday games of the NCAA tournament, with the 1-day turnaround versus the 4 or 5-day turnaround. And that's kind of what I equate to these Thursday night games. And New England, not only the better team, but the much better coach team, as you said, something to take away from that game last night as well. Let's bring in Rob Veno. I always take something away from Rob Veno because he always makes me proud. Rob Veno, WagerTalk.com. One of the best, if not the best, NBA cappers. Number one the past 2.5 years combined, over about a 200+% return in the NBA alone. Rob does NBA tip-off 4 o'clock Eastern quite often. I believe he might be on today. I'll have to check the schedule. We've also got college football today at 3 o'clock Eastern. I'll be doing the college basketball show at 2 o'clock Eastern. Before we get to all that, though, Rob, let's talk some college football. And you're looking at a barn burner, looking at North Texas at Florida International. No introduction needed for that game because I probably couldn't give you much of one. Let's get right to it. What are you looking at here? North Texas laying double digits at Florida International.
Yeah, I hate to go so far off the grid for those who are more interested in the top 25 matchups, Steve. But, Teddy, we had this discussion on your Sirius XM radio show last week. For everybody out there, you want to tune in to Teddy every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, Sirius XM. I'm forgetting the channel number, so I'm not that good of a promo guy for you, TC. But listen, we had the conversation of how we dissect college football seasons and how we handicap the final third, the final quarter, what we're looking for, what we diagnose, what we can take advantage of. And, we had this discussion about Florida International. It's a team I've just straight faded the last 2 weeks, 2-0. I'll do it again this week, hopefully to go 3-0. There's a lot of other reasons other than just the straight fade. It's a night game at Florida International. It's senior night at FIU. These would be my major concerns, okay, guys? We can laugh these away. Senior night at FIU. I think they have 5 of them. The best of the 5 won't be involved in the game. Devontae Price, their top running back, out for the season, got hurt a couple of games ago against ODU. And it's Butch Davis's final game at home as head coach of this team. He'll resign at the end of the season. It's that old "you're fired, I resign" type of deal with Butch Davis. FIU, real quick weather here, guys. Light rain throughout the contest, about 13, 14 mile per hour winds. Both teams trending in exact opposite directions. FIU, 1-5 against the spread last 6 games, 0-6 straight up. All of those losses, all 6 games by 12 points or more. Here we're asked to lay 10. Last 3 weeks, they lose by 38 to Marshall, 23 to Old Dominion, 40 last week, 50-10 loss to Middle Tennessee, outscored by a combined 135 to 34 over the course of the last 3 weeks. So, we hate to use the word quit, teams quit, but for FIU, I think it's just season done as far as they're concerned. North Texas, on the other hand, last 7 games, 6-1 against the spread, probably something not a lot of people know. 3-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 3. The game previous to that 3-game straight up in ATS win streak was a cover against Liberty. Pretty solid team. So, North Texas has done their job. They've won and covered against teams that they're supposed to. This is another one that they're supposed to. Last week, they beat UTEP in what was a pick'em game. I think that loss of Devontae Price for FIU a couple games ago causes some problems here. He's backed up by 3 younger guys. Teddy, I know you're not a big believer, and I would, pretty much stand in your on your bandwagon there that running backs aren't the be-all, end-all when you lose one. But these 3 guys are really, really young. Since Price went out, they've had 27 carries, or last week they had 27 carries, 102 yards, 3.8 per rush. That's well off of what Price was contributing. 2 real key matchups to be on the lookout for here. North Texas, which we know under Seth Luttrell, has been more of a spread pass-oriented offense. This year they've leaned to the run. Their running game against the FIU run defense should be enough said right there. FIU allowing 207 rushing yards per game, 263 over the last 3. UNT averages 223 rushing yards per game. They have a 3-year senior, DeAndre Torrey, who's gone over 3,000 yards and 31 touchdowns in his career. The play calling for this offense, guys, 60% run, 40% pass. So they're going to go after this FIU run defense. Their total yardage, 57% has come via the rush, only 43 through the pass. So I think that's a real good matchup in favor of North Texas. And the second one would be this pass protection of FIU has been abysmal. And UNT rushes the passer really, really well. Florida International, 24 sacks allowed in their last 5 games. UNT, 15 sacks in their last 4, including 6. This is what got me, 6 against Liberty. Malik Willis is not an easy guy to sack. They got him 6 times. Overall line of scrimmage should be heavily dominated by North Texas. North Texas, believe it or not, guys, on the season has outgained their opponent by 29 yards per game, 422 to 393. Pretty good number for a sub-500 team chasing a bowl bid right now. And FIU, they've been outgained by 108.5 yards this season. So all the fundamentals match up. The current form, recent form that we look for on the back end of a season matches up. I'm going to take North Texas minus the 10 here over Florida International.
So, Rob, real quick, do you have any concerns about the coach said he's resigning and now it's his last game and all of that, our last home game for FIU? Any worry about the coach fired bounce deal that you sometimes find in college football?
It would be, like I say, Teddy, along with senior night, 2 minor concerns. But Butch Davis has been, this wasn't an announcement that just happened a couple of days ago, right? They've known about this and they haven't played for him the last couple of games. So I don't know if these guys are going to rise up. Maybe friends and family are there and, some of these guys perform well, but it's not a senior dominated team by any means. It's a younger team. And something else in an article that was brought to my attention by a colleague of ours, Drew Martin, that the athletic department funding, I didn't realize this, at FIU is so short that they're like using borrowed equipment from, I think, Southern Miss or some team like that. And the football program may be extinct at the FBS level before we know it. So a lot of things going wrong at FIU. I don't think they have a lot left in the tank. So I'm going to play the hot team, UNT.
Drew Martin and Joe Ranieri's Florida International. What are they, the Panthers, I believe? And by the way, they have the same colors as Southern Miss, so that could very well be what's going on there. That's pretty interesting. And don't like to ask bad teams to flip a switch. They're 0-3 straight up in ATS the last 3, even maybe knowing that Davis was on the way out, so doesn't look like they're rallying. So Rob says lay the wood with North Texas. And because he gave you that game, he said he'd give us an SEC game. And wait, New Mexico State against Kentucky. My goodness. Hey, look, all joking aside, Rob, we love these games because everyone talks about the top 25. They can check out my video if they want the 3 biggest games. I like these under-the-radar games. And this is an interesting one because the SEC does this late in the season. Half the teams did it last week. A few of them are doing it this week. We got Monroe, LSU. We got South Alabama, Tennessee. And here we have New Mexico State, who's really struggling, 1-9 this year against Kentucky, who's 7-3. Kentucky, though, has lost 3 of their last 4. Do they take this game serious, Rob? And how do you play it?
Yeah, I'm going to play it first half, guys. And the debate was, do I play Kentucky first half minus the points, which are 22.5, or do I play the first half over the total, which is 34? And I come to the conclusion that maybe I want to play over the total of 34. But a couple of regions here. And boy, if you're Doug Martin, the head coach of New Mexico State, and he's a good head coach, right? He did good things in the MAC before he came here a few years back, but he's always shorthanded. The roster is always thin. And you play Alabama last week, and now you got to play Kentucky this week. It's not, tough scheduling when you're an independent, but you got to take these paydays, I guess, to make the program a little bit better, get them some money. They're mauled last week by Alabama 59-3. And as you mentioned, Steve, Kentucky 0-3 against the spread the last 3 weeks. And if they didn't get that late touchdown against Georgia before their bye week, they would be 0-4 against the spread. So they really pushed for that touchdown at the end to get the cover they did, but they're 0-3 last 3. Offense has not been a problem for Kentucky the last couple of weeks. I mean, they played suspect defenses, Tennessee and Vandy, but New Mexico State is beyond suspect as far as defense goes. Against Tennessee and Vandy, 76 points, 1,025 yards, 561 on the ground, almost 5.5 per carry. New Mexico State run defense, they've allowed 203 yards or more on the ground in 6 of their 10 games. So bad matchup there. Chris Rodriguez, lead running back for Kentucky, should have a field day. I'm going to get to the first half total here based on numbers. Guys, the fundamentals explain themselves, but based on numbers, New Mexico State is 6-2 over this particular number of 33.5. I think now maybe 34, but 33.5 when I first made this play. They're 6-2 over in the first half in 6 of their last 8 games. So 34 or more. I think it's even 35 or more in 6 of their last 8 games. And Kentucky is 3-0 over this particular number, or over the first half total in their last 3 games. So you got 2 teams that are trending real heavy over, especially with this particular number. Recently, Kentucky's 4-2 against the spread at home. That's good. But the total, I think, in the first half is even better. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of a 28-7. It could be more on Kentucky's side. You might get over 30 early. New Mexico State has done that, allowed that in a lot of their games here. New Mexico State, not a good spread team first half. So thus the dilemma between Kentucky minus 22.5 or New Mexico State, Kentucky over the 33.5, 34. I think because 28-7 still gets New Mexico State a first half cover, I'm going to go the route of the over 33.5. The numbers just bear it out. I don't know what New Mexico State can have left physically after getting banged around all season long and then against Alabama last week. So look for Kentucky to pile on first half points, maybe get out of Dodge in the second half. I'm going to go over 33.5 or 34, get the best number available in that game, New Mexico State, Kentucky.
And of course, earlier, Rob Veno was talking about the Sirius XM show that I do every weekend on the Sports Grid Radio Network. That's Sirius XM channel 159. The show plays a couple of times on Saturday. We have the college football, and on Sunday, we have the NFL. Of course, you can always get the podcast version. Just follow me on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Rob, I want to ask you about the mentality here of the Wildcats, because sometimes in these late season non-conference games, you see teams come out and do what Alabama did last week, and the game's over, very early. Other times, teams comes out and they're very sluggish in these non-conference affairs against lesser competition. Do you have any indication that Kentucky's interested in New Mexico State, or does it not even matter?
Yeah, I think, a couple of quotes out of Mark Stoops, the head coach this week, Teddy, show me that they're fairly interested in this game just based off of the below expectation performance the last couple of weeks. This is a team that started off red hot, and suddenly they're off the national radar. I mean, all we heard about into that Georgia game was Kentucky, Kentucky, Kentucky. And since that game, we haven't heard about Kentucky at all, and they haven't played up to their expectations. It's a game where they can get their numbers, they can get out healthy. So just based off of a couple of things that the coach said this week in quotes, I think they are pretty well prepared. And I think teams love this type of setup and scenario where they can just go out and run up scores. I think the offense will have a huge day here. So, I don't worry about that too much in this instance. It's not like they're sitting there with a major game on deck either. certainly it's an SEC game and they want to win, but it's not a game that's for a ton as far as motivational aspect is concerned.
So once again, Rob Veno likes over first half, and there are a lot of 33.5s out there still, Rob. Kentucky and New Mexico State over the first half. And just speaking of power ratings, like earlier, my power ratings favor Kentucky by 44.5 in this game. They're currently 36. So the only way I would play this, even with Rob Veno's money, is to lay it if you're going to play it, as Teddy Covers would say. And I do think they have motivation to beat them up after going just 1-3 their last 4. So Rob likes the over first half, Kentucky, New Mexico State. He likes North Texas -10 at Florida International. And Rob, on the way out, what else you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, I want to get and let the audience know to be on alert, because as when we end here, guys, I got a 5% college football release going up, and it's very possible. I haven't had this on any football weekend for the last 2 years here at Wager Talk, but potential for a 5% in NFL as well. So you want to go over to WagerTalk.com. Pick up tonight's college football, NBA, all kinds of stuff going on there. I have not yet gotten involved in college basketball. Steve, I know you're on the show. You probably have, but I'm sitting back and trying to just watch that sport for the first couple of weeks. But right now, WagerTalk.com, like I say, be on the lookout for 5% CFB and potential 5% NFL as well.
Yeah, and Rob, I got you covered. I'll be on the college basketball show at 2 Eastern, and then you've got college football 3 p.m. Eastern, NBA show at 4 p.m. Eastern. So there's plenty of Rob Veno today on Friday right here on Wager Talk TV. Thanks, Rob. It's always great seeing you. We will catch up again soon. Teddy, give me 20 seconds because I want to hear about Clemson Wake Forest for your big game breakdown. It's a really interesting matchup in the ACC. Big game breakdown, 20 seconds. We'll be right back.
The Wager Talk You Pick special is live, giving you the option to pick the league of your choice and get 30 days of picks for only $99. 30 days of the NFL for $99, done. Just want NBA and NHL for the next month? You can do that for only $99 each. That's right, $99 gets you every release from the league of your choice from your favorite handicapper, including 5% best bets for 30 days. No coupon code is required, and 30-day sports passes will go back to regular price Sunday at midnight. So lock in as many sports and handicappers for only $99 before time runs out.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk a little ESPN Big Noon on Saturday. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons facing the Clemson Tigers. Right now, looking at that Wager Talk live odds screen, I'm seeing Clemson -4. There are some -4.5s out there. Total sitting 56.5 in most locations. There has been a little bit of movement to the over in that contest. And this is a Wake team that has absolutely exceeded all expectations all year. They're 9-1, and their only loss came by 3 points at North Carolina. Clemson, on the other hand, this has been a disaster for Clemson, right, all year? Maybe, maybe not. The road is there for Clemson to make the ACC championship game and win this conference again. All they have to do is win this game. That's how it starts. The last 3 years, Clemson against Wake Forest, the combined margin, Clemson 152, Wake 19. I understand Wake's better this year. And I understand Clemson is better this year, or is down, certainly offensively this year. But how far down is Clemson at this stage, all right? They've taken the punches and they've bounced back, all right? After the Pitt loss, they could have quit. And instead, it's win and cover, win and cover, win and don't cover because they were laying 41 points, but they won by 37. The last 3 contests. So Clemson doing it right. Has Clemson lost a home game this year? No, they have not. Their losses, look, they lost neutral site to Georgia. No shame in that. Double overtime to NC State on the road. No shame in that. And the game at Pitt, which is probably as bad as they played all year. Certainly the second half of that ballgame. You get one mulligan on the highway over the course of the campaign, and that was Clemson. Clemson's not a bottom feeder team. All right. And Clemson has a defense that Wake Forest doesn't. The entire series history in recent years has been all Clemson, and I'm not convinced that Wake is primed to knock off the Tigers on their home field, on their final home game of the season. Give me Clemson -4 against Wake Forest. I think the Demon Deacons go down to defeat on Saturday. There you have it, Steve. That's my take on Wake Forest Clemson. What about you?
Yeah, Teddy, as I mentioned earlier, I do that top 25 video, and obviously there are 3 top 25 matchups this week. Wake Forest is a top 10 team, but Clemson not. But I do another show with Mark Rogers TV, where we do the 3 biggest games. He chooses them. He actually chose this as one of the 3 biggest games this week. So we talked about it in depth yesterday. And the more I started looking at it, I'm with you. I started liking Clemson more and more. They're still playing hard down the stretch. This is the team we worried about tossing the towel, a month or so ago. But now with the 3 straight wins, covering 2 of 3, it all started with that never in doubt cover against Florida State. But the defensive numbers jump off the board. Wake gave up 56 to Army alone. Clemson allows 15. Wake allows a double that, 29. So, yeah, I think this is a sneaky spot. And once again, let's go to the power ratings, 8.5. My power ratings favor Clemson by 8.5. So there is some line value there. So I was glad to hear you looking at Clemson as well in the big game breakdown. I think it makes some sense. I'll tell you, another guy makes some sense. He makes you some dollars as well, Teddy Covers. It's Adam Trigger, WagerTalk.com from the MAC. Cracks me up, Adam, that you call it the MAC, because I've always called it the Metro just to avoid the confusion. But I know that's your conference. That's where you went to school. Brian Leonard is the MAC expert since it came on the board in the 90s, the Mid-American. But is that what they call it in your neck of the woods, the MAC? Do they ever say Metro?
No one says Metro, Steve. We just call it the MAC up here. And then we call that other conference the other MAC. Yeah, that's like, although I'm sure that
American, I was like, that's a lot of syllables.
Yeah.
The other MAC. Well, I'll tell you, so which one did you go to, Siena or Iona? I always get it confused. I don't want to offend you. I know they're rivals, but let the viewers know you're.
I went to Siena. We don't really like Iona that much, and I'll tell you right now, that's going to be a fun game this year because Rick Pitino is going to be coming to town, and we didn't get to go to games last year because Siena had no fans. So looking forward to that one coming up early January, I think.
Well, and I'll tell you, you're looking at your home team today. I thought you'd gone to Siena. That's why I thought maybe we were doing this game. But you got Siena, Georgetown in college hoops. Of course, don't forget, Adam's got college basketball previews. I know I've been saying it for a couple weeks now, but it's still not too late to go to Wager Talk News, dig through the archives, and find over 20 college conference previews from Adam Trigger alone. We also have great daily content. We're really amping it up this week. James, our producer over there, our content producer, is so proud. He didn't leave the house for 4 days. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but he finally got some fresh air. And but Wager Talk News is really taking off, folks, and it's easy to find. You go to WagerTalk.com. It's in the top corner. Just click on Wager Talk News. And Adam's got previews for all the big conferences, but more importantly, I think the smaller conferences where people probably need to do a little extra research, including the Metro, the MAC, Siena, Georgetown. Adam, which way are you looking?
Yeah, so first, I have 3 college basketball plays today. And it's my biggest card of the year. I've been kind of treading lightly through the first week, but I'm going to open it up a little going forward. And this is one of them. So this is a 4% play for me. You said it, Steve. I went to Siena. This is my alma mater. So I do follow this team closely. I don't always look to bet on them, and I will bet against them if the situation presents itself. But I love Siena in this spot. So they're off to an 0-3 start. They're 0-3 against the spread, but they're a team, I'm going to cut them a little slack because there was some big-time roster turnover for Siena this year. Jalen Pickett's now at Penn State. Jordan King is at East Tennessee, and Manny Camper's in the G League. So Siena went out and replaced those guys with 5 transfers that are still kind of figuring out how to play together. I would actually say that Georgetown is going to be the worst team they've played so far this year. Their first 3 games, nationally ranked St. Bonaventure, really good basketball team. Then they played Delaware, who's a contender in the Colonial, and then Yale, who's pretty much the consensus pick to win the Ivy. So I actually think Georgetown, even it being on the road, is actually the least talented basketball team Siena has played this season. This Georgetown team is horrendous. Steve, I'm sure you have an opinion on this being down in that area. This team is awful. I know they made a run to the NCAA tournament last year. They kind of, got hot. They won the Big East tournament to get to the NCAA tournament. But, I don't think Patrick Ewing can coach. He's never had a 500 or better season in Big East play. And they lost a bunch from last year. So they're really right now relying on a couple freshmen. Their point guard's actually a former Siena player, Donald Carey. He's a decent player. But outside of him and Aminu Muhammad, who's kind of their star freshman, this Georgetown team is not good. I fully expect them to be in the basement in the Big East. And they've already lost to Dartmouth this year, who's probably a worse team than Siena. And not only did they lose to Dartmouth, they got throttled by Dartmouth. They were down by like 17 at halftime in that game. There is no way that Georgetown should be laying 15 and a half or 16 points to Siena, even with Siena's issues and the fact that they're still getting on the same page as a team. I know that Coach Carmasterella was not happy with the effort. I was at the game on Tuesday, and it was just a complete disaster against Yale and a lack of effort. I actually think going on the road will help them a little bit here. They seem to be more focused on the road in the St. Bonaventure game than they did either of the two home games this year. This number is out of control. That you can't. Georgetown just can't be a 16-point favorite here. I would make them more like a 10-point favorite. And I'll tell you right now, Siena's going to have an outside chance to win this game. I actually think they'll be that competitive in this game. Siena, you can get 15 and a half or 6. Yeah, I think I got 16 minus 115 when I gave it out. You can still get 15 and a half. I think Siena is going to compete here. This is a 4% play for me. Siena Saints plus the points in DC tonight.
So
Teddy,
Adam,
there we go.
I want to ask you on this. You made a compelling case, and yet this number is sitting at 15 and a half, and it's kind of a head-scratching number. All right. We all know that Georgetown's down. We all know that Siena has a talent upgrade. Why, even though it hasn't played out early, why is the number as high as it is? Why is this point spread in this range?
You know, Teddy, I asked myself that question. I was kicking myself for not playing Dartmouth because I thought there was value playing against them earlier this year. I didn't think Dartmouth was going to win. Well, I thought that number was insanely high as well. I just think, I think people look at Siena. Obviously, they lost Jalen Pickett. He's at Penn State now. He was the MAC Player of the Year 2 years ago. So I think they look and see the losses that Siena had. Manny Camper is in the, he's playing in the G League now. So, you lose two guys like that on a mid-major team. And I think the thought process is, okay, like a rebuilding year, the team is down. I really think that it was the last two games. I mean, Siena looked so bad on Tuesday against Yale in a game that really, they were a 3.5-point underdog. Yale's good, but that was a 3-point, spread. And Siena looked so bad and so uncompetitive in that game that I think that's where the sort of inflated number comes from. You add that in with the fact that, Siena hasn't covered a number yet this year, and Georgetown did bounce back and win big against American. I think that's why the number is where it is, but I just don't agree with it. I really think I think Siena is going to be competitive here. I'll be shocked if they win the game. I think they potentially could if they can put two halves together. But I'll call it maybe Georgetown by 9 or 10. I think we're going to stay way within the number.
Yeah, and I think you could definitely make a reason why the number's here, because let's not forget Siena is 0-3 on the season, shooting 35.5% from the field. So it's not like they're barn burners. So and Georgetown was a tournament team, as you said, Adam, they played their way in last year. They're playing on some borrowed time, in my opinion. Only one transfer they even got in this year, and he came from the Citadel. They've only got two guys that are more than 3-star recruits. One of them, by the way, is Ryan Mutombo, 7'2" son of Dikembe Mutombo. No, right? So it's an interesting team to watch, but they're young to say the least. So Adam does like his alma mater, Siena, plus the points as the double-digit dog at Georgetown. And look, I'm going to transition from a Georgetown comparison to the Packers. How do you like that? Georgetown made the tournament last year. Maybe they're a little overrated because of that. Well, how about the Packers? We talk about current form. The Packers get blown out 38-3 in week one, right? Adam Rodgers hadn't taken a snap all season. They look terrible. Everyone writes them off all of a sudden, and now they have yet to not cover since. They're either 9-0 or 8-0-1, depending on your line of that Bengals game since. So it just shows how, like current form, early results, like Georgetown became a play-on team last year. Maybe now they're a little overrated. Is that the case now with the Packers, Adam, or do we keep riding this 9-1 point spread run, this perfect 9-0 point spread run the Packers are on there playing Minnesota at Minnesota on Sunday?
Well, I'm going against it here, and for a couple reasons. But my reasoning, it's really not a fade of the Packers for me. I'm just really high on this Vikings team. I came on WagerTalk Today last week. I gave out the Vikings against the Chargers. I said, even with some of the people that are out, I thought the Vikings were the right side. They get it done. This week, I actually did release this as well. I gave out Vikings plus 2. It's a 4% play. I didn't put it up for individual sale because I expect this to continue to move. And so I'm just going to give it out here. I think it's still plus 1. I'm just high on the Vikings. I like this team a lot. I think it's insane that they're 4-5, mostly to their own doing. But this could easily be a 6-3 or 7-2 team right now. You go back to week 1, they fumbled away a pretty good chance to beat the Bengals in overtime. They had the Cardinals dead to rights and ended up losing at the last second. The Cowboys, of course, go in with a backup quarterback, convert a 3rd and 16, and beat them on the last drive of the game. They had a huge lead on the Ravens. They blew it in overtime. And even the Cleveland Browns game, the Vikings were tied or in the lead for most of that game and gave it up late. So I mean, they're 4-5. They could easily be better than that. And I think we're going to start to see them sort of put it together a little bit. I don't want to fade the Packers, but I do think there are vulnerabilities in this Packers team, specifically against the run. And they're going to have to face Dalvin Cook here. And, Kirk Cousins takes a lot of criticism, but I like Cousins as a quarterback. I think he's better than he gets credit for. I know he's faltered in some of these bigger games, but it's not a night game. It's not a primetime game. And I love the Jefferson Thielen, combination that they have. The Packers, they got it done last week. They didn't look impressive by any means. It was more the Seahawks, I thought, really just were a bit inept in that game than, the Packers it was a 3-0 game and they ended up winning 17-0. Rodgers was a little hobbled. I think he'll probably be fine this week. But yeah, for me, I also, one point I want to make here, I like to fade teams that have a bye week late in the season. The Packers have a week 13 bye, which means these guys have been going hard since training camp in mid-August. And, you start to see these teams with late buys. I feel like they're a decent fade the week or two before their bye. They're just, it's a long season. They're ready for a week off. What comes to mind, the Packers a couple years ago had a late bye and they went out to the West Coast and got absolutely blasted by someone they should have beat. I want to say it might have been the Chargers. Can't remember if it was last year or the year before. And there was another scenario where they got hammered by the 49ers in a similar spot. So I'm not saying that Green Bay won't be up for this game. It's a divisional game against the Vikings. They do have the Rams next week. So there is that. And that game's in Lambeau. But I just like this Vikings team. I think they're really good. I think they're actually, at home, probably should be favored. So I took +2 and I would still take it at +1.
Yeah, and of course, there's a big difference between 1 and 1.5, which is the current line, because you can tease them up to 7.5 or more, and some of the sharper books are showing 1s only, and I think that's because they are worried about the teaser liability. By the way, the Packers may be on a 9-game point spread covering streak. They've gone under now 7 straight, so that defense has been getting it done. We'll see if it continues, but Adam Trigger likes the Minnesota Vikings. And Adam, on the way out, what else you got going on? I think a little birdie told me you're on the college football show at 3 Eastern today with Rob Veno as well. So check him out at 3 Eastern, more college football. And what else you got for this weekend at WagerTalk.com, Adam?
Yeah, Steve. So I'm on college football today, 3 p.m. I have a 5% college football play that goes on Saturday. It's one of my favorite spots of the whole season. The last time I said that was when Purdue played Iowa, and I had Purdue as a 5% play, and they rolled and won outright. I feel similar to a spot this weekend. I have 3 college basketball plays for tonight. I gave one out, and I put the other up as a 2-pack. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 if you want the other 2. And then, I just gave out a 4% NFL play. I'll be adding other NFL for this weekend. So, it should be one of my higher volume weekends that I've had recently, and I expect to do well.
Awesome. And thanks for sharing some of your best bets with us. That's Adam Trigger. Gave you a couple best bets here. Be sure to check out WagerTalk.com for even more strong ones, including a big 5% college football best bet. Adam Trigger, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, we're going to transition over to our sister site, sportsmemo.com, for the prop master, Matt Josephs himself, Mid-Major Matt. And, of course, before props were readily available, I knew Mid-Major Matt. He was always looking at the MAC, the Metro, and the other MAC. He loves those conferences. And then, of course, now props are available everywhere. He really specializes now in props. So, Matt, welcome to the show. Great to see you, as always, a fellow Virginian. We had a New Yorker there. Teddy, the only Vegas guy on the show right now, which is a rarity here on Wager Talk today. Let's look here at some props that you want to look at in college. You're looking at UMass Army. If this isn't a mid-major match special, I don't know what is. The Minutemen one of the worst teams out there. But how you playing the first quarter, Matt? UMass and Army and the logic behind it.
So this is one of the things I've kind of honed in on as this season has gone along. I've basically looked at the Army and Air Force and Navy first quarters and basically said, all right, is there a trend? Is there a way to play these things? And a lot of the times I've been going under with regards to the Armies and the Air Forces because we know what they do. They do the triple option. They matriculate the ball down the field. Their defenses are good enough to hold down the opponent. And then in theory, they get the ball back and they work their way down the field. And there's usually only like 3 possessions in a first quarter. Well, this is a different situation. You look at this UMass team, they're 129th in first quarter defense. They're allowing 12.8 points per first quarter this season, 14.2 on the road. And what we saw last week, now granted it was against a Bucknell, but when Army goes up against these bad defenses, they break 50 and 60-yard runs. So what I'm doing here, I'm going over 13.5 points in the first quarter. I expect Army to be up 14-0 at least by the end of the first quarter. Last year, UMass played Georgia Southern, a team that runs the triple option, granted not as well as Army does. And they were up 14-0, and that was with a whole offseason to prepare. Now, granted, it was a weird offseason and everything with COVID, but UMass what is the motivation for this team to travel to Army? It's been a miserable season. There's no bowl games. There's no nothing. And now they're going to go play Army, a team that's going to hit them in the mouth for all this time. I think it's going to be a really quick start for Army. I think they go up at least 14-0 in the beginning of the first quarter, and I'll take over 13.5 in the first quarter.
Do you trust Army's kicker to make the extra points?
Oh, goodness. Well, after Miami, Ohio's kicker missed that extra point and screwed me on the team total there, I hope so. But yes, I do. I think he's good enough to do it. Cole Talley, I believe his name. He's good enough. And look, there's even a small chance maybe UMass breaks a play. I know their offense stinks, but UMass is going to go 3 and out probably a lot in this thing. So I think there's a chance we could see 3 Army possessions in this first quarter. I think there's a chance they score in all 3.
So he likes first quarter over 13.5. Obviously a very key number there for a first quarter line. So make sure you get 13.5, 14, a key number. And another key number here, you're looking at the team total in the Tulsa Temple game. And your beloved Temple Owls, that's a Syracuse grad, but you would never know it. You would think he was a Temple grad if you follow him on Twitter at MidMajor Matt. And Temple having another struggle season here, 3-7 straight up, but Tulsa just 4-6. First half the full team total is 13.5 over juiced with Temple. Do you think they get there, or do you take the under?
No, I'm taking the under. And what I like to do a lot of times in the end of the season when teams have no bowl games and when they have no future and they're playing these road trips, Temple's flying out to Oklahoma to play Tulsa. You go and you fade teams like this. And I don't want any part of the spread. Tulsa's not good enough to cover a big enough number. I would lean that way if you wanted to, but I don't want any part of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a team total here. Temple has scored 35 points over the last 5 games. 35 points. They've had single digits in 4 of those 5 games. We just saw, a day or 2 ago, DeJuan Mathis, the Georgia transfer, he's transferring out of the program. That's the 35th transfer since Rod Carey has been a head coach at Temple. And this is a team that just has no motivation. Jordan Lynch is not very good at quarterback. All he does is run the ball. He doesn't throw the ball very well. They had a wide receiver transfer out earlier this week as well. Tulsa's coming off holding Tulane to 13 points. They're not very good. Their defense isn't very good, but they're home against a highly unmotivated team that's going to want to go play the game, get off, and go home. So I'm going to take under 13.5. And in some places, the under's even money, which makes it even better because that's a really good value for a team that just can't score right now.
Do you worry about, if we expect a no-show from Temple, do we worry about Tulsa perhaps scoring very easily in the first quarter? They do have something of a downfield passing game when they face lesser defense.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry that this game gets away from Tulsa and then the backups come in and Temple gets 2 garbage time touchdowns. But Temple's offense is all garbage time. I mean, they don't have they have a decent set of running backs. They've lost their best wide receiver. They've got a quarterback who doesn't throw the ball down the field. They've got a head coach that's on the hot seat. They've got an offensive coordinator who's not very good. So to me, it's a recipe for look, obviously I'd like to get 14.5. We'd all like to get 14.5, but we can't in this situation. And as I said, the even makes it even better. I just don't think a team that scored 4 times single digits the last 5 games, I'll take under 13.5 on a long road trip that these guys don't really want to be in. I'll take the under 13.5 at even money.
Yeah, and just to point out, these lines, these team totals, a lot of books don't post them until Saturday game time. We are seeing 13.5 juice to the over here. So it could, potentially on Saturday, we might end up with some 14s out there. And obviously, as Matt always says, shop around in the props. They do vary from book to book. And team totals first quarters are props because they're not, widely available earlier in the week. We're going to look at a game total here in college hoops. What you got for us here? Western Carolina, Maryland, Baltimore County. That game goes at 7:30 Eastern tonight. You sent it over yesterday. It was around 143.5, I believe. I'm seeing like 148, 148.5. So obviously the early money agreed with the over, which is the way you're leaning. Do you still like it at that price, Matt? And what was the logic behind it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I obviously I don't like it as much, and that's the one thing that, you kind of, when you play college basketball, now I know it's a little harder for the added games because most of the books don't put the added games out until 8 or 9 in the morning that day, so it's a little hard. If you're one of those books that does have the added games early, you should certainly take advantage of it because we're seeing a lot of totals move, and we're seeing what I'm finding in college basketball, a lot of the underdogs are way too high in some of these games, and what's happening here is we're seeing they're being bet down overnight, so when you wake up the next morning, an 18-point underdog is now 13. And so what you've seen here is, I sent this out to my All Access clients this morning at 144. It's now 148. I can't sell that number because I don't like it as much. The reason why I liked it is Western Carolina is a team that plays really fast. You look at their 3 scores so far. They won in overtime over Bowling Green 79-71. They lost at Wake 87-75, and they lost at East Carolina 95-79. Giving up 95 points to East Carolina should be illegal because they're a decent basketball team. They're not that good. And then you look at UMBC, they played a lower level team and they played UMass in a 73 possession game. It was a 77-60 loss for UMBC. This just feels like it's a really wide open type of game. I liked it at that 143.5, 144. I guess if you're going to potentially look at something here, maybe you would look at like a UMBC team total over because Western Carolina's defense is not very good at all, but those are not widely available because they're an added game. So what I basically want to say here is look at these games the night before, and if you see value, jump on it because the next morning it could be completely gone.
I was going to say, Matt, it's also a great reason for clients to get your all access at sportsmemo.com because like he just said, he gave this out at 144. Mid-major Matt moving the markets as we speak, but he does specialize in the smaller conferences, all joking aside, mid-major Matt, and also props. It's a great way to diversify your portfolio, and be sure to check out sportsmemo.com for mid-major Matt Josephs. Matt, what else do you have online on tap for this weekend in all sports?
Well, I mean, the college football has been going great after finishing first last year in Sports Memo, doing really well. I had a streak of 4 straight winning Saturdays snapped last week. I went 500, so we'll look to bounce back. I just gave you 2 of my favorite plays in the college football card there, but we'll have many more. And then the NFL, the props and everything, and college basketball has been going really well since the opening day, so you want to check me out at sportsmemo.com.
And once again, follow Mid-Major Matt on Twitter at Mid-Major Matt, that Matt Josephs, sportsmemo.com. And Teddy Covers and myself, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, thanks for having me today on Friday. We'll do it again next week. I'll be filling in for the Prez all of next week. It's kind of ironic. The Canadian is getting an advanced start for American Thanksgiving, but it makes sense somehow in the Prez world. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Have a great weekend. Be sure to check out WagerTalk TV all weekend long. I know Teddy puts up free NFL plays. I'll have not only my college football top 25 video, but my Fade the Public. Teddy, it went 3-0 Fade the Public last week. It's now won 3 straight weeks. It is heating up in November. That Fade the Public NFL video will be available this Saturday here on WagerTalk TV. Just a reason to hit subscribe and hit the bell if you want an instant alert when that video and all videos are posted. Give this a thumbs up, and most importantly, leave us comments below. Let us know who you like this weekend in college and pro football. Don't forget to check out WagerTalk.com and WagerTalk News. And Teddy, take us home.
Sure. And of course, just to let you know what the schedule is for next week, we will have shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Steve and I, no show on Thanksgiving Day. We will have a show on Friday. That'll be Steve and Prez. I'll be taking that day off. All that being said, that's going to wrap it for the week here at Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again, same time, same channel on Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games and good luck this weekend.
Tokyo Brandon's resume in Asian baseball is quite impressive. 2021 number 1 overall profit leader, up 217% in profit, 61% in KBO, and 59% in Japanese baseball. For a limited time, you can lock in KBO from the start of the season in April through the championship in November 2022. And as an added bonus, we'll include any Japanese baseball played during your KBO All Access for the super early bird price of only $4.99. To make the added bonus juicier, we will also include any MLB plays during your access for free. To purchase all of these sports during this time frame, it would cost you over $1,300, but by locking yourself in early, we are dropping the cost all the way down to $4.99.